Yes, ma'am.
It seems like if the older age is growing, that they would be more interested in taking transit to entertainment
Right.
in the evening
That's
than
right.
to jobs.
That's right. That's right. Right. And in Phoenix, where they have a big senior population, what they've found is that they have a little one-line light rail that's very beautiful. I highly recommend getting down there if, I'm a transit tourist. I know you all may not be, but it's a really nice light rail system, and that has a lot of ridership during the day, and a lot of seniors are riding it. And the other thing that's interesting about that transit line is it connects up. Arizona State University has one campus in Tempe and one campus in downtown Phoenix. And the kids ride back and forth, and having those young people on the trains has made the seniors feel comfortable. So they like to ride it. Some people have told me that the seniors in Phoenix ride for field trips. They go, oh, let's go to, East Valley today. Yeah, I heard there's a good restaurant near X and such stop. And so people are riding it for non-work trips.
But I have a friend who doesn't have a car, and she's had to give up ushering in the city because the last bus out is at 9 o'clock.
Right.
And then, of course, you have to change at Rent City, which is
right.
such a great place. So.
Okay, so I have another talk, which I will not give you tonight, but I end with a picture of my father, because my parents were in that situation. They moved from the suburbs into Evanston, right outside Chicago, so they could ride the train in, and they could still, well, my father's no longer alive, but my mother still goes to concerts. She volunteers one day a week in downtown Chicago. She can do all that on transit, and she has two choices. She has the train and the L. So for those of you who are familiar with Chicago, so it's made a huge difference for her. She's much more mobile as a result of that. So, yes, ma'am.
Well, our terrain sort of precludes transit. We have very little transit that's accessible to people unless we have developed an on-call transit. None of this is going to work.
Right. Well, Mill Valley may not be the epicenter of transit-oriented development ever because of your terrain, as you point out. But really, I'm here to discuss some of these broader concepts and to make clear for why things might not work in Mill Valley, but they might work for Marin County. And even for, depending on how you would reorient, say SMART gets running and people are really riding it back and forth, living, working, whatever, it's possible that Mill Valley would have more buses that would serve the SMART train. So it's possible that eventually the transit could be reoriented so you could walk down to a place where you could pick up a bus that would take you. So it might not stop at the corner of your street, but it might be someplace that you could still walk to.
That's why that step lane is such a good thing.
Right. Right. So, yes, ma'am.
I'm just noticing on this particular graphic that the green is actually the opposite of the blue.
Right.
See what I mean? So Mill Valley's planning to the plan is till 2040.
Right.
And in 2040, actually, the 35 to 40, 54 age group pops
Goes up. Right.
and the baby boomers drop down.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. That's right. That's right. Things change over time, and people come and people go, both, spiritually and, physically. So, yeah. And I think, this is one of the challenges, again, about thinking about how to build housing stock that's resilient, because, there are people who are advocating for building these 400 square foot units. And I myself think that's kind of a bad idea, because I think you can live in 400 square feet comfortably for a couple of years, but not for very long. And I think we need to think about things that could be a little bit bigger, but, but at the same time, they don't have to be 3,000 square feet or whatever. And, my parents downsized from a 5,000 square foot house to a 2,500 square foot condo. And my mother was so concerned she wouldn't have enough room. And now she's like, this place is so big. What do I do? So it's all what you're used to and all that too. But, yes, ma'am.
I think this is kind of a two-part thing. I know a lot of people are concerned that SMART will create more commerce and businesses. It will attract businesses to Marin. But it seems like And I suppose, there will be more work-oriented parks and so on that you were talking about. But conversely, wouldn't this take commuters off the freeway, no longer going into the major cities anymore, if these work parks are replacing a commute to San Francisco or something?
Right, yes. So that's the trade-off, if you will, potentially, is that people wouldn't need to drive across the bridge or take the ferry across the bridge. But even wouldn't it be great, say you worked in downtown San Rafael, and you live here, and you could walk down the step lane and catch the bus at the square there in downtown, take it to the SMART, and then just shoot up. You don't ever have to get on 101. That seems to me it might be a blessing, So I think that some of this is that we're going to have to rethink how we provide. If this is going to work, we can't also pin it all on SMART. We have to think about how we're going to feed SMART and so forth, so that people have the opportunity to just not get in their cars.
Can you talk a little bit more about the creative ways that shuttle buses have been used?
So there are, you mean these smaller buses that feed, so Emeryville, are you all familiar with Emeryville in the East Bay? Kind of right at the tip of the eastern edge of the Bay Bridge. And it's an old warehouse and manufacturing area that's transformed into a biotech hub. And they have something they call the Emery Go-Round, and it's a little bus that circulates to the MacArthur BART station. And again, they just keep adding buses. It's been tremendously successful. In Mission Bay in San Francisco, they have one of these shuttles, and it's been so popular now that they're thinking about turning that into some kind of a streetcar or adding more capacity there. So those circulators, again, Redwood Shores on the peninsula, there are independent businesses run shuttles back and forth from the San Carlos Caltrain station back and forth all day long. So there's already a lot of this that's going on between private businesses and these different stations.
Have you found that there are any factors that are consistent in people using these services? Like, does the bus run at a certain frequency, or is it capable of carrying bicycles or large packages, or what?
Well, the Caltrain carries bicycles, and some of the buses carry bicycles. But again, I think the most important, you saw speed was important, and then being able to get someplace where people want to go. So it's got to go somewhere quickly, or else people really don't want to ride. So I think the efficiency of the system is important. More questions? Yes, sir.
I found something the other day that seems to go along with what you're saying the trends are. And there's a walkability score that you can associate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found it interesting because I happen to live in the downtown, and I looked at another property that I know someone lives in that's actually just up the hill, not very far, but the walkability score was a lot lower. I think mine was something like 94 and theirs was 26. I did realize that they're refining that site, and it didn't take into account step lanes and path because it was just using the road network. And they do say that they're refining, and it seems like something that the real estate industry is starting to use in marketing.
That's right. So are you all familiar with WalkScore? How many of you have heard of WalkScore? So WalkScore, if you go to walkscore.com, you can put in your address, and it gives you a score from 0 to 100 in terms of walkability. And it measures how far you are from grocery stores and from transit and from schools. And my house has a walk score of, I think, 94 or something like that. I'm mad because it's not higher. But what's interesting about this is now that realtors in some markets are starting to advertise the walk score for a unit. So if you're looking at the multiple listings or something, you'll see a walk score of 90 or a walk score of 85. And the other thing is that people have correlated the sales price of units to walk score. And I can't remember what it is, but it's like for every 10 percentage points, the value of units go up $5,000 or something like that. I mean, it has an